For more insight on the war in Iran, we are joined by retired Army Major General William Enyart and Jonathan Ruhe as well, Foreign Policy Director at the Jewish Institute of National Security of America. Welcome both. It's good to see you. And General, I want to start with you tonight. President Trump notably tonight not directly addressing boots on the ground. We just heard from the Hill's Paul Miller last hour. He believes regime change is simply not possible only by air. Likely it would be with U.S. boots on the ground. Do you agree with that?
Well, I agree with that concept that it's virtually impossible to force regime change from air assault alone. It's never really been successful before. We have certainly done a lot of bombing in our time and not successfully instituted regime change. But I certainly don't think that the administration wants to put boots on the ground. I would certainly hope they don't want to put boots on the ground. You know, tackling Iran from the ground is certainly a major expedition, and one one Marine expeditionary unit is not enough. You know, when we invaded Iraq in the first Gulf War, we had nearly 200,000 boots on the ground, nearly 200,000 soldiers ready to go. We have not staged that kind of force, and Iran is much larger than Iraq. So it would be a very difficult proposition.
Tell me more about that, General. We know USS Tripoli hauling a couple thousand Marines, presumably, into the heart of the Gulf. What kind of mission would you expect a contingent of that size to be working on or to accomplish in that region?
Well, you're talking about an amphibious unit. You're talking about also an air mobile unit, but it carries a tremendous amount of punch for the size. But it's not even an Army brigade. 2,500 troops is they could go in and seize an airfield. They could seize a small port. But in terms of seizing any significant territory, they couldn't control the Strait of Hormuz. There's simply not enough of them. They're great fighters and a tremendous asset. When I was in the War College and we were planning invasions of various places, we always wanted the Muse with us. But it's not a large force. It's not a large enough force to hold a significant piece of territory.
Jonathan, I want to get your voice in here. Iran says Ukraine is now a legitimate target after President Zelensky voiced his support for Israel in this war. Do you think Iran has, A, the capability and also the desire to strike Ukraine directly?
Well, I think you could say in some way they have been striking Ukraine directly for years because it's an Iranian factory in Russia that's producing a version of the same Shahed drones that we've seen attacking all across the Middle East these past couple weeks. Iran's strategy in general is to broaden the war as much as possible. And I think right now, comments like that reflect the fact that they're making abundantly clear that they expect to outlast the United States in this war by raising the pressure wherever they can. I think, as we saw in the previous segment, Iran's launcher capability is certainly depleted. And I think right now their main pressure point is indeed the Strait of Hormuz in the Gulf.
General, Russia this week proposing taking control of Iran's enriched uranium. President Trump rejected this offer from Putin already. We had Michael O'Hanlon with the Brookings Institution on NewsNation's air this weekend. He said that this is a path worth considering if it ends the war. I mean, do you agree? Can Russia be trusted with Iran's uranium?
Well, I certainly would be reluctant to trust Russia with more uranium. They'll simply build more nuclear weapons. But Russia, of course, already has enough nuclear weapons to destroy us. That's what the old policy was, mutually assured destruction, where we each had enough nuclear weapons to destroy the other. So I suppose in that sense, they've already got enough weapons to destroy us, so what's giving them some more? But the problem is, what would they do with that uranium? What's to prevent Putin from giving it back? And certainly Putin has shown very little regard for international law, launching his unprovoked war against Ukraine.
Jonathan, Trump asked tonight if our goals was asked rather, if our goals are any different in any way from Israel's goals in this war. He said, no, our goals are aligned with Israel. Do you see the goals being any different between our country and Israel? And what are those goals in this war?
Well, I think ultimately it depends who you ask and which day of the week you ask them. We've seen at the outset both President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu say that their goals are to collapse the Iranian regime's military and internal security capabilities, and therefore essentially open space for the Iranian people to take back their government, in the president's words. I think since then we've seen various ideas, various claims about what the goals of the war are. And we heard the Israeli Defense Forces spokesman say today that regime change is not what the Israelis are pursuing. They're not trying to overthrow this regime. And I think that certainly reflects general Israeli attitudes, which is they focus more on the operational goal of setting back Iran's military and nuclear programs by X number of years. Whereas we've heard from President Trump say that he tends to think a little more absolutely in terms of his war aims. But as the war has gone on, I think we've also seen President Trump dial that back a little bit to focusing on specifically military and nuclear capability, eliminating those.
General William Enyart and Jonathan Ruhe, appreciate both of you tonight. Thank you.